The account on your screen shows $7,340. Your company paid $293.60 for it 4 months ago. The person who owes $7,340 does not know the debt was sold. They believe they still owe the original lender. They do not know that the bank charged off the debt 18 months ago, accepted $293.60 for the legal right to collect it, and sent a form letter to an address that may no longer be current. Your job is to collect as much of the $7,340 as possible. The information about the purchase price is yours. The information about their rights under the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act is also yours. One of those pieces of information you will share. You are 23 years old. Your title is debt collector. Your base salary is $31,200 annually. You receive a commission on collections above your monthly target. 4% of every dollar you collect above $12,000 in a single month. In your best month so far, you collected $19,480 and earned a commission of approximately $299 on top of your base. The commission is the mechanism the company uses to align your incentive with the recovery rate on the portfolios you work. Your incentive is to collect. The recovery rate determines the return on the portfolio. The portfolio was purchased for the return. The Fair Debt Collection Practices Act, the FDCPA, is the federal law governing how you are permitted to contact people who owe debts. It establishes the hours during which you may call, between 8 in the morning and at night in the debtor's local time. It prohibits harassment, false statements, and unfair practices. It requires you to send a validation notice within 5 days of initial contact. A written document informing the debtor of the amount owed, the name of the creditor, and their right to dispute the debt within 30 days. You send the validation notice. It is required. You do not always explain what the 30-day dispute window means for the debtor, because explaining it in detail is not required, and because a debtor who disputes the debt within 30 days triggers a process that pauses collection activity while the dispute is verified. You handle approximately 37 accounts on any given day. Some are new accounts, first contact, no previous collection activity on this portfolio. Some are accounts in mid-process, previous calls made, partial payments negotiated or missed, notes in the system from the previous collector. Some are accounts that have been worked by 3 different collectors with no progress, which means the debtor is either unreachable, genuinely unable to pay, or has learned enough about the FDCPA to know that not responding is a legally available option. You are trained to identify which category an account falls into within the first 2 minutes of a call. The genuinely unable to pay, job loss, medical crisis, recently divorced, require a different approach than the strategically unresponsive. The strategically unresponsive are not always dishonest. Some of them have spoken to a bankruptcy attorney. Some of them have read the FDCPA. Some of them know that the statute of limitations on the debt has expired in their state, which means the debt is legally unenforceable in court. You do not volunteer the statute of limitations information. You are not required to. Most people do not know to ask. You are aware of this every time you work an account where the date of last activity suggests the limitation may apply. The collector knows the purchase price, the statute of limitations status, the debtor's full rights under federal law, and the settlement authority available on the account. The debtor typically knows none of these things. The information asymmetry is not incidental to the business model. It is the business model. The model depends on the gap between what each party knows, remaining at the width it was when the call begins. Narrowing the gap is not in the collector's financial interest. Widening it violates the FT. The gap is maintained. The gap is the product. 14 months later. You are 24 years old. Your title is skip tracer. Skip tracing is the process of locating a debtor who cannot be reached through the contact information in the account file. You were promoted to this role after your collection numbers in the 3rd and 4th quarter exceeded the team average by 31%. The promotion doubled your access to data systems. It halved your call volume. Your job is no longer to collect. Your job is to find. The tools available to a skip tracer at a mid-size collections operation in 2024 are significantly more powerful than the tools available 10 years ago. you have access to 6 separate data aggregator platforms that compile public records, credit header data, the name, address, and date of birth fields from credit applications, social media profile scraping services, utility connection data, and employment verification databases. The platforms are updated continuously. When someone applies for a new credit card at a different address, the credit header data updates within approximately 48 hours. When someone connects utilities at a new apartment, the utility connection data updates within a similar window. The data exists because they exist. They did not consent to its use for this specific purpose. The use is legal. The use is also the reason they can be found. The account you are working is a woman who owes $4,970 on a retail credit card that was charged off 2 years ago. The account has been worked by 3 collectors with no contact. The last known address is an apartment she vacated 15 months ago. The phone number on file is disconnected. The email address bounces. She has not applied for new credit since the charge-off. She is, by every conventional collections metric, a ghost account. An account where the cost of continued collection effort may exceed the recoverable value. You find her in 47 minutes. The process. Her name and date of birth produce a utility connection record dated 11 months ago at an address in a different city. The address cross-references with a social media profile that was created 8 months ago under a slightly different name. Her middle name used as a first name that contains a profile picture consistent with the driver's license photo in the identity verification system. The profile lists her employer. The employer's public directory lists her work phone number. You call the work phone number. She answers on the second ring. She did not know she could be found. She has been at the new address for 11 months. She thought the debt had gone away. The debt had not gone away. The statute of limitations in her current state of residence is 6 years. The debt is 2 years old. The statute has 4 years if remaining. The debt is legally enforceable. She agrees to a payment plan. $124 a month for 40 months, which totals $4,960. $10 more than the face value of the debt, covering the administrative fee the plan generates. Your company paid $219 for this specific account within the portfolio it purchased. The payment plan will produce $4,960. The return on the $219 purchase price is 2,165%. The math is correct. The math is what the portfolio acquisition model predicted when the portfolio was purchased. Consumer data does not have a geography. Every credit application, utility connection, and public social media profile creates a data point that updates the person's findable location within 48 to 72 hours. Moving is not disappearing. A skip tracer with access to 6 aggregator platforms can typically locate a debtor with a current address within 2 hours of beginning a search. The person being searched did not consent to this specific use of their data. The use is permitted under the principal purpose provisions of the Fair Credit Reporting Act. The consent was implicit in the original credit application. Most people do not know this when they fill out a credit application. Most people do not know this when they move. 2 years after the skip tracing, you are 26 years old. Your title is Portfolio Acquisition Manager. You do not collect debts, you buy them. You analyze portfolios of charged-off consumer debt that banks and credit card companies are selling, determine what each portfolio is worth to your company, and bid to acquire them. Your annual compensation is $87,400. Your decisions determine the raw material that every collector and skip tracer in the organization works from. The quality of the portfolio determines the recovery rate. The recovery rate determines the return. The return determines whether the company grows or contracts. A bank is selling a portfolio of 4,122 charged-off credit card accounts with a total face value of $31,700,000. The average account balance is $7,692. The average age of the debt, time since original charge-off, is 22 months. The state distribution is 14 states. You run the portfolio through your acquisition model. The model applies historical recovery rates by state, debt age, account type, and original creditor. It segments the 4,122 accounts into 4 categories. contactable and collectible. Approximately 22% of accounts, based on historical contact rates for this debt profile. Contactable and non-collectible. Debtors who can be reached but are genuinely unable to pay, currently in bankruptcy or judgment proof. Approximately 18%. Non-contactable but locatable through skip tracing. Approximately 31%. Non-contactable and non-locatable. Deceased permanently relocated internationally or in states where the statute of limitations has already expired. Approximately 29%. The 29% is the portfolio's dead weight. You pay for it, and you will not recover anything from it. You price it accordingly. Your total expected recovery across all four categories, based on the model's historical performance on similar portfolios, is between $1.4 and $1.9 million. You bid $1.1 million, approximately 3.5 cents on the dollar of face value. The bank accepts. The portfolio costs 3.5 cents on the dollar to purchase. The portfolio will return between 1.27 and 1.73 times the purchase price. The return is the reason the company exists. The individual accounts inside the portfolio are not individuals to the acquisition model. They are segments. The 22% are the performing segment. The 18% are the sympathy segment. The model knows they are there, prices for them, and routes them to collectors with instructions to offer hardship plans at reduced settlement amounts. The 31% are the skip tracing segment. The 29% are the write-off segment. The write-off segment contains some people who are genuinely in crisis, and some people who are deceased, and some people who have simply learned enough about their rights to render themselves effectively uncollectible. The model does not distinguish between these subcategories. They are all 29%. A debt buyer who paid 3.5 cents on the dollar and recovers 7 cents on the dollar has made a 100% return on the investment. A debtor who settles for 30 cents on the dollar when the buyer paid 3.5 cents believes they negotiated a significant reduction from the face value. The debtor is correct about their reduction from face value. They have no information about the purchase price. The purchase price is not required to be disclosed. The settlement feels like a win to both parties. Both are correct from inside their own information set. The information sets are not symmetrical. They were never designed to be. 4 years after the portfolio acquisition. You are 30 years old. Your title is Director of Compliance. You report to the General Counsel. Your function is to ensure the company's collection practices comply with the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act, the Fair Credit Reporting Act, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau's supervisory requirements, and the collection laws of 47 states in which the company operates. Your compensation is $114,000 annually. You did not take this role because you wanted to protect consumers. You took it because the company needed someone who understood both the regulatory framework and the operational reality of collections. And because the role comes with the authority to stop practices that produce regulatory liability. The authority is real. The operational pressure against using it is also real. In the last 4 years, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau has initiated 3 supervisory examinations of the company. 2 produced no findings. 1 produced a finding related to the company's practice of reporting debts to credit bureaus without first sending the required validation notice in certain portfolio categories. The finding resulted in a remediation requirement. The company sent validation notices to approximately 14,000 accounts that had been reported without them, and removed the negative credit reporting from those accounts for a period of 60 days while disputes were processed. The remediation cost the company approximately $247,000 in administrative costs and foregone collection activity. The company's total revenue in the year of the remediation was approximately $41 million. The remediation was $247,000 against $41 million. The remediation was the cost of doing business in the specific way the company had been doing business. You have reviewed 17 class action lawsuits filed against the company in the last 5 years. 13 were settled out of court for amounts ranging from $40,000 to $312,000. 4 are pending. The lawsuits allege violations including contacting debtors outside the permitted hours, failing to cease communication after written request, collecting debts where the statute of limitations had expired, without disclosing that the limitations period had passed, and attempting to collect debts that had been discharged in bankruptcy. You review the lawsuits not as evidence of systemic failure, but as a map of where the operational pressure against compliance is strongest. Which practices produce the most complaints? Which complaint categories generate the most litigation? And which states have regulatory environments that make certain practices disproportionately risky? The expired statute of limitations issue is the one you watch most carefully, in approximately 9 states. It is legally required to inform a debtor when the statute of limitations on a debt has expired, that the debt is time-barred and cannot be enforced through a lawsuit. In the remaining states, there is no such disclosure requirement. Collectors working time-barred debts in non-disclosure states are not required to tell the debtor the debt is unenforceable. Some collectors, not at this company, according to the company's policy, have used language in collection calls that has prompted debtors to make partial payments on time-barred debts, which in some states restarts the statute of limitations clock and makes the debt legally enforceable again. This practice is not illegal in many states. It is prohibited by the company's policy. The company's policy is enforced imperfectly. You know this because you have reviewed the call recordings. The call recordings are the most precise instrument you have for understanding the gap between the rules and the practice. The rules are written. The practice is recorded. The gap between them is the compliance function's entire subject matter. The gap exists in every organization that operates at the scale where individual actors have financial incentives that occasionally conflict with the organization's legal obligations. You did not invent the gap, you measure it. The measurement determines which practices require remediation and which require policy clarification and which require termination of the collector involved. You have terminated 4 collectors in 2 years for FDCPA violations. The violations were real. The collectors were not malicious. They were working toward their commission. The commission structure produced the incentive. The incentive produced the violation. The violation produced the termination. The commission structure remains in place. The compliance function exists to manage the gap between what the law requires and what the incentive structure produces. The gap exists because the incentive structure, commission on collections above target, rewards behavior that occasionally crosses the legal line, and because the people crossing the line are typically not doing so deliberately. They are doing so because crossing the line produces more commission than not crossing it, and because the line is not always visible from where they are standing. The compliance function's job is to make the line visible after the fact and to terminate the people who crossed it. The incentive structure that moved them toward the line remains. The next quarter's commission cycle begins Monday. The account on the screen shows $7,340. Somewhere a collector is looking at it now. They are 23 years old. They have been at the company for 7 months. Their monthly collection target is $12,000. They have collected $9,412 this month, with 4 business days remaining. They need $2,588 more dollars to hit the target and earn the commission. The account on the screen has a face value of $7,340. The account was purchased for $293.60. The collector does not know the purchase price. The purchase price was not disclosed to the collector. The purchase price is not in the system they use. The person who owes $7,340 does not know the debt was sold. They do not know about the $293.60. They do not know that a skip tracer spent 47 minutes locating their current address through utility connection data and a social media profile they created 8 months ago. They do not know that a portfolio manager priced their account as part of the 22% contactable and collectible segment of a portfolio that was acquired at 3.5 cents on the dollar. They do not know that the collector about to call has settlement authority to accept 40 cents on the dollar, $2,936, and still produce a return on the portfolio that exceeds the acquisition model's base case by 62%. They know the $7,340. They know they owe it. They know the call that is about to come is about the $7,340. They do not know what the call costs the company to make. They do not know what the settlement is worth to the company if they accept it. They do not know whether the statute of limitations has expired in their state. They do not know the 30-day dispute window. They know the debt. The collector will tell them their rights under the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act. The validation notice will be sent. The required information will be disclosed. What will not be disclosed, because it is not required to be, is the purchase price, the settlement authority, the statute of limitations status, and the fact that a company paid $293.60 for the legal right to ask for $7,340. The system is not hidden. The FDCPA is public law. The charge-off and sale process is disclosed in the original credit card agreement in the section about default. The settlement authority exists because someone calculated the return at different recovery percentages and priced the authority accordingly. Every step is documented. Every step is legal. The information that would make the person on the other end of the call a more capable participant in the conversation is not withheld through deception. It is simply not provided, because providing it is not required, and not providing it is more profitable than providing it would be. The collector picks up the phone. The phone rings at the number the skip tracer found. The person answers. The conversation begins. One party knows the purchase price, the settlement authority, the statute of limitations status, and the full scope of the other party's rights. One party knows the $7,340. The gap between what each party knows is the product. The product has been bought and sold. The product is on the screen. The conversation is the collection.